Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
And here's your forecast for the weekend of October 5th. Friday, in the clear under partly cloudy skies, trending towards in and out of the clouds under mostly cloudy skies with a high around 50. Winds will be southwest, shifting west at 15 to 30 miles per hour. Friday night, mostly in the clouds under mostly cloudy skies with a slight chance of rain showers in the evening, becoming likely after midnight with a low in the upper 30s. Winds will be west, shifting northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour, then increasing to 30 to 45 with gusts up to 55. Wind chill will be falling to 20 to 30 above. Saturday, mostly in the clouds with rain showers early, tapering to isolated rain showers and drizzle in the afternoon, rising high around 40 and then decreasing to mid-30s by sunset. Winds will be northwest, shifting north at 35 to 50 miles an hour to 60, and the wind chill will be 20 to 30 above, falling to 15 to 20 above. And then Saturday night, more of the same, in and out of the clouds, trending towards clearing with a wind chill 15 to 25 above. So it's getting cooler, a little slick up there this weekend, so be safe and have fun.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
All right, Stomp, I just hit record. Did you hit record?
I hit record. Make it so.
Okay. So episode 170, Stomp. Thanks for being you.
Why? What'd I do now?
I don't know. I'm just thanking you for being you.
Okay. Thanks for you being you too.
Yes, yeah. Don't be anybody else but you, Stomp.
Oh, don't worry. I don't intend to change anything.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but we'll roll with it.
Oh.
Normally, I would crack my beer open and you'd hear that little click sound, but I'm drinking a fancy schmancy beer tonight, so I have no crack. I had to use a bottle opener to take the cover off of it, but I'll do the big reveal later.
Okay. Looks like an awfully big bottle there. It's like
a 40 ounce.
Oh, wow. Malt.
Well, it's not a 40
Is
ounce,
it
but
malt?
It looks like one, yeah.
We'll get to
No, did you ever drink those back in the day? Like the 40 ounce Miller Lights or whatever?
Yeah, what was that Australian one that they used to have in the big cans?
Oh, the oil can.
Yeah, the oil can. Foster's.
Foster's, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the rage.
When I was tight on money in college, like sometimes you'd desperate times call for desperate measures, to go buy the Fosters or the 40 ounce, but those days are long gone.
It's funny.
Yes. All right, Stomp. So welcome to episode 170 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week we are joined by Brice from Vaucluse Gear is going to be here. So he's going to share some product updates to hopefully stir up some ideas for holiday shoppers. Plus, we've got disaster strikes western North Carolina and Tennessee, so we'll have updates on the status of the southern sections of the Appalachian Trail, and we will try to break down what happened to cause such significant damage. That area is similar to the Whites, but also there's some different characteristics, which I think I'll try to break down and explain what the underlying causes of the damage are. So, and then this prompted us to take a look back at Hurricane Irene that struck the White Mountains in August of 2011. So we'll go through a little bit of that history. That was before me and Stomp really got into hiking, but we'll do our best to try to summarize that. Plus, we got updates on Rescue Me 5K. We've got a story about when wolves attack. Stomp found a piece of gear that he wants to review, and then we're going to do a deep dive on winter hiking gear and advice, plus a hiker vanishes in Yellowstone, and then we've got some recent search and rescue news in New Hampshire. So we've got a rescue that happened on Edmonds Path, got an injured hiker in Tamworth, something on Mount Monadnock, and then Waypack Wildlife Refugee. So we'll break it all down. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started. Mm-hmm.
Let's get started in hacking up the pronunciation, Stomp.
Let's roll. Off to a good start.
Yeah. All right, so my first note here on our little script is sorry for the delayed release. Mm-hmm. Mrs. Stomp is on vacation, so we had some hiking plans. So what does this mean? There hasn't been a delayed release.
True. Well, this is probably going to come out late Friday, depending on what the plans are. We're planning on doing a little backpacking, so, I probably won't get the editing done till later Friday. So we shall see.
All right.
Yeah, so she's on vacation.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she's got the next 2 weeks off, and we're trying to maximize our time together here. So sorry, everybody. Forgive me. Okay. All
right. Well, we're recording Wednesday night this week, which is a little bit different. Although we did record Wednesday last week too, because I was traveling. So, yeah. So we released the last week's episode a night early. So we've built up some goodwill.
Yeah, I think so. That was a popular episode too, by the way.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Everybody seemed to like it, which is great. All right, Stomp, you pulled an article. What is this? This is I don't even know what this is. You pulled this for me, it looks like.
Yeah, apparently the House of Representatives passed a bill last week that, or a couple weeks ago, that parents of hazing victims hope will discourage the practice. And I brought this up because I know you have history with fraternity life. Is that true?
Yeah. Matter of fact, at one point, I have the scripts written up, or some of them written up. I was actually considering doing a podcast, totally unrelated to hiking, but just summarizing sort of like the whole experience of like pledging a fraternity and being in a fraternity in the early 90s. I think I shared that with you, so that's probably what rang a bell with you.
Yeah, I think so. But with this, basically, let's see, Steve Groover and his wife had been aware of the disciplinary actions and hazing infractions against this particular frat, Phi Delta Theta. Their son would not have been pledged there. But anyway, this apparently, this was a hazing-related death way back in...
So this is at Louisiana State, LSU.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Did you run into this craziness in your fraternity?
Yeah. So I mean, my background. So I pledged a fraternity that is no longer in existence, and the reason it is no longer in existence is exactly because of this. Is that there was hazing incidents that had gotten bubbled up to the authorities after. This all happened after I graduated, but yeah, there was incidents with hazing. Police got involved, and I think that the president and the pledge master of the fraternity at the time, and again, this is after I graduated, both were charged and convicted of hazing, and they actually ended up going to jail for, I think, like a week or 10 days or something like that. So
yeah. Well, this couple actually,
it's not good.
They're making some gains here in Louisiana. They've changed hazing to a felony, actually. I'm just curious if it's still the culture in these frat houses, with the binge drinking and everything else.
Yeah,
Probably.
I think so. For people that aren't aware, so Greek life, and again, this is a hiking podcast, but we go off the rails a little bit sometimes. So yeah, I think when I pledged, it was certainly like it was an initiation process, and you did these different hazing activities, like they'll drop you off 20 miles away from your home and
cool
other things that I don't. Maybe I'll do the podcast someday and I'll get into the details, but. I think where these incidents really have gotten to the point where people have gotten injured or died is when binge drinking is involved. So one thing I'll say about my fraternity is that we had a very strict rule, even in the early 90s, that pledges were never allowed to drink. So we were a dry program, and that I think. The brothers would all be drinking, and it was difficult to be around them when they were drinking at night and things like that. But we had very strict rules where pledges do not drink, and I think it was exactly because there was always a fear that something like this would happen. So,
right.
But I'm torn on this. So I think at that point in my life, I certainly, living away from home by myself and trying to find my way as a young man, I think that I in particular needed that level of discipline. So I do think that like that period of my life where that discipline was instilled through hazing. Yeah, it wasn't fun when you went through it, and I don't support it now, and I think that there's better ways to achieve the same goals. But I think for me personally, it was a net positive. I was able to surround myself with a community of people, and overall, I look back at everything with a pretty positive experience, even with the hazing piece involved. So that may not be a popular view, but I do think that for me, I needed that level of discipline, and I needed that community, and that's what pulled me through college. I was certainly no genius, Stomp, but. Nowadays, I mean, both my older daughters are in sororities. My experience with I kind of warn them to look out for that, and that my experience with both of them is that neither one of them experienced any level of hazing. It's just sort of an initiation and a rush process. A lot of drama, but nothing that crosses the line.
It's funny. I had a friend that went to WPI, Worcester Polytech, and he was part of a frat there, and became such an alcoholic that he dropped out of school. He was just totally went off the rails. I haven't seen that kid in ages, but I felt really bad. I think he's since gotten his act together, but wow.
Yeah, it is a dangerous time when you're in college because there is that, there's just a lot of free time opportunity for binge drinking, and I certainly did some of that when I was in college as well. Some of my fraternity brothers didn't fare well, but most of them are, good careers, good family, successful lives. So, yeah, it's interesting. I do have some stories though.
I did it. I can't wait to hear them. I did it by commuting. I avoided all the nonsense.
You avoided all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got there's been some crazy incidents. I mean, one of the two of my fraternity brothers, one of the fraternity brothers actually, murdered the mother of one of my other fraternity brothers. It was a murder in Malden that involved two of my fraternity brothers. And it was a pretty sad story, and the alcoholism and drugs were involved in that too. So, but someday, that's a teaser for the listeners. Someday maybe I'll do that on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, let's go. You've got somebody that can edit it for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be through the Slasher LLC for sure. So. But this is a hiking podcast, Stomp, so let's get into the Columbus Day planning here. So we've got some foliage and some hike-safe tips. What do you got?
Yes, the leaves have started to fall. I noticed that big time this weekend. First of all, it popped. The reds are out now, and it actually looks really beautiful. But, on trail doing some bushwhacking this weekend, the leaves are on the ground. So if you're out there hiking, watch out for those slippery roots underneath and wet granite they may be hiding, lurking unaware below there. Like we always say, pack for yourself, pack for potentially others that you may meet on trail, and definitely start packing the headlamps because it's getting dark a lot earlier. And make sure you have that warm clothing. We haven't really seen the rime ice yet, so I don't think it's microspike territory yet, but it's coming in quick.
Do you feel like it's like peak foliage at this point, or are we another week away?
I would say it's going to be right on target for Columbus Day weekend. It's probably 70% right now from the notch up.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably Artist... What's that place? Indian Head.
Artist Bluff?
Yeah, Artist Bluff and Indian Head. They're probably at about 65, 70% now. Coming down Lost River today, I got to see the expanse from Whaleback to Tecumseh and views east, and it looks like it's really coming in nice.
It's popping. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. And for listeners, I think, again, the advice, we did a deep dive a couple of episodes ago, but essentially, like with foliage, you want to be down in the foliage. So you want to be in the lower elevation. So like Mount Pemigewasset, Middle Sugarloaf, the Pine Mountain, those lower levels, you want to be like sort of immersed in it, or you want to be sort of halfway up or looking into a notch to get that crazy view. So, like Glen Boulder is a good one to get up onto. The cliffs below Cannon is a good view. Willard, Webster, anything that looks down into a notch is perfect.
Yeah, good call. Good call for sure.
Yep.
Should be nice.
All right. And then stomping up next here, we've got a reminder here. So we are going to be at the Rescue Me 5K, which is on Saturday, November 9th. It's going to be in Lincoln, New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And registration is open right now. It's $30 per runner. If you're under 17, it's $25. It starts at 10 a.m. And this is a good fundraiser for the Lakes Region Search and Rescue. So definitely get out there. Stomp will be there spinning tasty beats, and I'll be there. I don't know what I'll be doing. I'll be running, I think, but I'll also be hanging out.
Yeah, we're going to be emceeing the event. The bib pickup starts at 8:30, and then after there's generally like an award ceremony after the fact at Moat. Complimentary Moat Mountain Brewery craft beer after the fact. So pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Excellent.
And it's my birthday, so everybody better show up. I'm going to be 55. How scary is that?
55.
That's a good number.
You're 55, huh?
Yeah, 55. Almost. 54 at the moment. I'm hanging on.
I'm looking at you here. You're doing okay, Stomp. You're a solid 5.
Okay.
You're 5. Well,
what's the scale?
5 or 6, I'd
Wait
say.
a minute.
Yeah.
Out of 10?
What?
Okay. A mediocre then. Yeah. All right. I'll take that.
Yeah, like Jimmy Carter in the wheelchair being a 1. Did you see that this week? The poor guy. He's 100 years old.
I know.
Then,
the entire post office is waiting with bated breath for him to pass to get a day off.
That's horrible.
I know, but it's true.
Okay. Yeah, well, he doesn't look so good, but you're a 5.5, I'd say.
So. I'll take what I can get.
All right, and then we've got a update on full conditions here, and then I'll get back to the wolf story.
Yeah, it sold out a couple weeks ago, and we just got word that there is a new wait list. So you can go to the same website on the Instagram link tree, and there's a wait list. And basically, what they'll do is wait for the weather, and if the weather is appropriate, then they're going to open up the whole back of the Pint House with tents and propane heaters, and a whole bunch of folks will be able to sneak in. So get on the wait list, and you may be surprised. You may be able to get to see some of the show. So thank you, Reckless, for considering that.
Excellent. All right, now Stomp's favorite newspaper, the Cowboy State Daily, out of, what is this out of? This is out of Wyoming, right?
Yeah, it's Wyoming.
All right, so a Wisconsin duck hunter said he was surrounded by a pack of aggressive wolves and he shot one in self-defense. Mm-hmm. Unlike in Wyoming, wolves remain federally protected in Wisconsin and can't be hunted. The man says he's confident he'll be cleared because I guess he said that this guy's a hunter and a fisherman, and he's used to seeing these wolves around. He said he's never had any trouble, but he was completely unprepared for what happened last weekend, where he was with a couple of other duck hunters, and they were surrounded by a pack of wolves in northern Wisconsin. So he had to shoot and kill one in self-defense.
Wild, huh? Usually,
I guess it's legal to shoot them in self-defense.
Oh, of course. So there is some potential legal jeopardy here, and I'm sure it'll work out. But yeah, he's gonna.
And this kid, he's 19. He's going to school to be a lineman. So, basically like fixing electrical wires and stuff like that. So he's got his life figured out, and I'm not just going to throw it away by going up there and shooting a wolf just to do it. So he kind of defended himself. So there's some talk that, like, I guess there's increasingly more issues with these wolves in Wisconsin that are getting more and more bold around hunters and tourists. So, I guess what happened is that he took a couple of young kids duck hunting, 13 and 14 years old, and he picked them up at like 3 a.m, and by 6:30 or so they'd made the drive to the area and found a pretty good spot. They put the duck decoys out, and they sat down by a tree, and they built a blind and settled in, and then one of the kids, I guess, looked to the left and thought that a deer was coming, and then lo and behold, it was a wolf.
5 to 7 of them.
It looked small and scrawny. And then more and more of them came around, and then that was it. The guy got nervous, and one of them came pretty close, and he blasted the wolf in the face, and the rest of them took off.
Yeah, wild. I mean, we usually talk about bear attacks and whatnot, so this is a little different. It's pretty interesting. Yeah,
it says wolf attacks are pretty rare. I mean, I get it. The kid was probably pretty nervous, so it'll be interesting to follow this to see if there's any charges against him. But he seems to claim that it's self-defense, and it seems pretty likely that it was. So
yeah, it sounds like there are witnesses too, potentially.
Yep.
Cool.
So I guess it's helpful to have a gun in that situation. I didn't really know wolves were in Wisconsin, but it's a big state.
Crazy.
I was surrounded by wildlife the other morning.
Your deer pack family there?
Yeah.
Up on the hill?
Yeah. I got, there's so many deer in Woodsum Farm now in Amesbury. I had like one deer that was out in the middle of the field, and then he started moving away, and then all of a sudden there was like 7 or 8 of them moving in the woods, like little baby deer, and they're all eating trees and stuff, so I think they're getting fattened up for the winter.
Right. Is this how big is this acreage-wise, this area?
I don't know. Surprised. I'd say Woodsum, it's probably like, I don't know, a couple 100 acres. It's pretty big.
Wow.
When I run from one end to another, it's like a 3-mile loop in the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's plenty of room for them to move around.
Yeah, I find that amazing that they have found a way to survive in the suburban areas.
Yeah. One half of the town, Amesbury's a weird place. Like one half of it is very densely populated, and the other half is all like open space. We have Woodsum Farm, we have the town forest, and then we've got Lake Gardner, and then another farm called Battis Farms, and they're all like public farms. And then we've got Poe Hill. So there's like this whole half of the town that's open space that goes probably like 5 miles.
Uh-huh. Protected lands in the town, the open space?
Some of it's protected. It wasn't before, and it's kind of weird politically. So Amesbury has like these horrible sports fields. Like we don't have any. We have the worst sports fields in all of like Cape Ann League and Merrimack Valley Conference. And the old mayor was like planning to like get new sports fields and new soccer fields on this farm, but then he ran against some other mayor that's now the mayor, and they didn't like this old mayor, and I think because the idea of putting the soccer fields in Woodsum Farm was his, they killed it. But then they like spent all the money elsewhere, and now we have horrible soccer fields. So I don't know, it's a mess.
Yeah. I remember that one place by the middle school there. The concrete wall.
Landry Stadium.
Landry, yes.
Yeah, Landry Stadium, yeah.
That's not a bad stadium, but it seems like it's somewhat in disrepair.
Yeah, they don't let the soccer kids or any other sports except football use it. So it's a point of contention in town. So
Right. Cool, man.
Amesbury, it's not the most functional place, but I won't be here for much longer. So
Slasher's hiking topic of the week.
But Stomp, moving on to North Carolina, Tennessee, flooding from the hurricane. So I was down in North Carolina last week, so I flew in on Thursday night, which was just as Hurricane Helene was entering the western hills of North Carolina and Tennessee, and we received rain in through about Friday afternoon, but we were central North Carolina, so luckily Helene went farther west. I think it went up through Knoxville, but what ended up happening is that it dumped about 30 inches of rain. And imagine, so we're going to talk about Hurricane Irene from 2011. I believe that maxed out at like 8 or 10 inches. This had 3 times that amount of rain, so that 30 inches of rain that hit the area. So, are you familiar at all with Blue Ridge, Asheville?
Not really.
The Smokies?
No, not really. Nope. Just traveled through a couple times, but not really.
So, Asheville, North Carolina is the main community in that area, and I would say it's like it's bigger than like North Conway or Lincoln, but it is up in the hills. And I think the difference between that particular area and our own White Mountains is that they have water reservoirs. So they have above Asheville and right below Mount Mitchell, which is like the highest elevation. So Mount Mitchell's at like 6,600 feet. That's the highest elevation in the East Coast. At about 4,200 feet, there's a reservoir called North Fork Reservoir, and that reservoir basically feeds down into Asheville and a number of other lower level reservoirs and communities. And I think that the difference in that part of the country compared to like the White Mountains is that there's more smaller communities that are like on the mountains themselves. Whereas in the Whites, we have communities, but they're more like in the valleys. And there's no really communities that are like blocking the drainage. So I feel like the White Mountains, like the drainage is like more established, I think, is the way to put it. But essentially, so you have this big water reservoir at 4,200 feet. Then they use the gravity to feed it down into the cities and communities. And then they have a couple of other reservoirs around that same elevation that go on the Tennessee side and the western North Carolina side. And I guess what happened is that those reservoirs, obviously with 30 inches of rain, and then you've got drainage coming off of the higher elevations of Mount Mitchell, those reservoirs overflowed very quickly. And then from there, I guess some of the water went directly down into Asheville, and then another part of it followed another road that basically wiped out a bunch of communities that were more due east. And everything flowed into this like Lake Lurie, which is at like 1,100 feet. So you've got all this water that's going down like 2,000 feet of elevation, and it's gaining momentum as it's going through. And it just basically took out every house, every bridge, every community that was in its way.
That's fascinating. What did the storm stall out and just sit there?
I don't really know. I was traveling, and I was just sort of busy paying attention, checking in the hotel, and then like we were doing stuff on Friday. I was working Friday morning, and then Friday night we were kind of in the college, so we really didn't realize how bad it was until I think Saturday morning is when the news came on that, and then we started seeing some linemen showing up at our hotel. They were staying there on their way over, but we didn't realize how bad it was until Saturday is when the news started coming in that it was really bad.
I wonder if there was preparatory lowering of the reservoir beforehand, if that's even possible.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if that was possible, but I saw a bunch of videos and it was crazy. It was just people, there would be this little stream of water that's coming through, and then like an hour and a half later, it would look very much like you see out in the West Coast with these flash floods where the debris just gets pushed down a mountaintop because of rain, and it's sort of the same dynamic, and bridges got taken out and everything. But I was on a couple of websites here. So essentially, there's a website that has aggregation of ongoing emergencies. So just like looking through this, there's this list of like urgent medical welfare. Some of these people are known to be safe, but they need to be evacuated. Some of them need supplies. And when you look at this, like Burnsville, North Carolina, there's like 6 addresses of people that need to be evacuated, and then there's 107 people that need provisions. In Asheville, there's like a dozen names of people that need medical help or they need evacuation. In Brevard, probably 5 or 6 people that need evacuation. Elderly, like a 93-year-old person, 70-year-old person, elderly with Parkinson's disease. Bakersville, North Carolina, Black Mountain, Old Forge, Weatherville, elderly person with a dog. People checking in saying like, okay, we've checked on these people, they've gotten provision. Some people that are diabetic that need medication. So it's really scary. And then communication's a big issue. I guess today they're starting to get Starlink equipment out into those areas. So apparently there's private citizens that are flying helicopters into these regions with Starlink equipment so that they can set up the satellite dishes and then set up the routers that go along with them. And then that way they'll be able to communicate and get internet connection. So I think one of the lessons on this one here is I do think that people need to start thinking about Starlink. If you live in a rural area or an area that's prone to lose, or even if you just live in the suburb, if you think you're going to lose power, Starlink is not cheap. I mean, it's probably, I think,
it is
I pay
expensive.
like maybe $90 or $110 a month for it in Maine. But you may want to look at it as like a backup generator for your internet. So if you have a generator, so you lose power, you have a generator, and then you've got your Starlink connected, then you're fully on the internet and connected.
Okay. Well, I can tie something into that because I actually removed it from this section of the script because, what is it, Jacoby, the generator company, they're having a 50% off sale up until October 7th. Those are really decent generators. So people might want to check that out. I've started to look
at those more and more. I have a Generac, which is like, I think it's like a 6200. So I have a transfer switch on my house, so I basically cut over. It doesn't run everything, but it runs my heat. It'll run, electricity, and then I could easily plug in the Starlink router and set up the satellite. So it's definitely something to think about. And then on this Google sheet here, again, there's all these like wellness checks that are needed. I mean, there's literally dozens and dozens of people, and this was as of like yesterday. People are asking, bring backpacks and duffel bags to haul stuff with. They need people to walk in and out of difficult terrain, hauling stuff to this church area. They're telling people to wear boots, good walking shoes, and clothing you don't mind getting dirty. So they're asking for horse feed. They're looking for senior feed or crimped oats for horses. There's people that may be trapped. They need fuel, gas cans, water and reusable jugs, nutritious food, baby supplies. So these are all things I think people should start thinking about, like in case there's ever an emergency like that. It's instructive to sort of think about, are you prepared or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, every winter up here, we lose power for 2 or 3 days, it seems. So even for a short duration, you need to be ready.
Yeah, and there's a couple of designated shelters in Asheville. So there's Harrah's Cherokee Center. There's the First Baptist Church, Swannanoa. And then there's Trinity Baptist Church in West Asheville. There's a farm that needs help rebuilding in Hendersonville, North Carolina. There's a relief fund for river guides on the Pigeon River. I mean, I'll include all this. Highwire Brewing needs help. Their headquarters and beer garden has been totally submerged. There's a lady here that put in, she's like, I'm so worried about my mom on Laurel Court. I know it's not far from downtown, so if anybody knows anything, I'd be so grateful. Please call me and let me know if my mother's okay. So just heartbreaking. Yeah. So there's another incident here. Black Mountain is another area that got hit really hard. It said that rescue services have been able to confirm that everybody that they were looking for is there, but the majority of the folks are stuck on the mountain. There was a woman in labor and an elderly couple that were evacuated, but everybody else remains. They need supplies delivered by air, especially fuel and gasoline, and there may be some additional evacuations that are needed. I guess the neighbors are meeting daily at noon at a particular address, and there is a helicopter landing pad that they've cleared out there for people. So. I mean, this just goes on and on. Bat Cave, North Carolina, there's a community of 50 people with 3 dogs that are stranded and cut off from the roadways from mudslides and bridges and highways washed away. There's some elderly and sick that are needed. So,
yeah. Incredible.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. So I pulled a couple of things here, Stomp. So... obviously for us, and again, this is not a big priority in the grand scheme of things, but, we're a hiking podcast.
That's right.
So more than a third of the Appalachian Trail is closed due to hurricane damage.
Damn, that's going to put a crimp, huh?
Yeah. So parks and trail towns along the southern reaches of the AT are devastated. So they're saying more than a third of the Appalachian Trail is currently inaccessible to hikers.
Wow.
So the ATC executive director said that the organization believes some sections of the trail could be closed for an extended period of time because bridges have washed away. So it could be, communities in Damascus and Irwin, Tennessee, and Hot Springs have been devastated. So it could be, early season Appalachian Trail may be tough this year going north.
Yeah. I would assume some trails are just gone.
Yeah, so the ATC has asked hikers and visitors to stay off the trail between Springer Mountain and Rockfish Gap, which is the 864-mile mark northbound. And it's also requesting that volunteers and trail workers stop working on that section of the AT for the time being, noting that falling trees and landslides continue to be a danger in the damaged area. Wow. The Facebook pages for the Appalachian Trail hikers, Stomp?
Yeah.
Like, most people are pretty good. They're like, how can we donate and how can we help? But there's definitely a few knuckleheads on there that are like, don't let this bring you down. You can keep going. You can finish. Like, hike your own hike and all this other stuff. And people are like, dude, there's like
death wish.
People in the middle of like a devastating disaster here. Like, who cares about your through hike?
No kidding. But seriously, the risk in these areas. You're setting yourself up for serious trouble.
Yeah, and there's not going to be any trail angels out there. The Blue Ridge Parkway is closed as the National Park Service is assessing the damage. So this is a disaster, Stomp.
Sheesh. Unbelievable. Well,
the
trail will be there some other time.
The trail will be there. I did pull a couple of other things here. So Sawyer water filters, the Sawyer Squeeze, Sawyer products. Mm-hmm. They're giving away 10,000 filters for hurricane relief. So anybody that needs one, they are going to get in touch with search and rescue and county officials in the southern Appalachian area to give these away to anybody that needs one. Mm-hmm. So that is cool. And then Eagle Nest Outfitters, which is known as Eno, they are, I know them as the hammock makers. Their headquarters is in Asheville, and they are shut down.
Okay.
Offices are closed and they are unable to ship orders. So thanks for your patience and support. But I think if you're going to look for a hammock in the near future, there may be a shortage there because Eno is like in with all of the gear companies, and I have like 4 of these things, but it may be a shortage for a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And last but not least, Stomp, the Appalachian Long Distance Hikers Association, ALDA, has put together a relief fund. I will include that in the show notes in case somebody wants to donate. And then they have also put out a statement saying that they are going to use $10,000 from their reserve fund to start this relief fund. And essentially, like, they're going to focus on helping hostel owners and other service providers and secondarily provide relief to trail communities the AT passes through. They may also use the funds to help other trail communities, trail clubs, and other clubs that might help with trail repairs. And then they've also resolved that any current Alder members out on the trail this year that cannot complete the trail due to closures or trail conditions will be honored with completion certificates. So that's basically like the carrot to say, like, yeah, you can say you completed it, but get off the trail. So,
Wow.
Yep. So, and I guess they said that their first work trip is going to be at Mountain Harbor, and that they've already gone into some hard-hit areas, especially the ones that FEMA will be slower to get to, and they're going to help to start clearing up and get things ready for the area. So they'll continue to organize work trips and use emergency funds as they identify opportunities to apply them that will benefit trail friends. So Alder's a good organization, so I'll include those I'll include links to those in the show notes. And yeah, it's a disaster, Stomp.
Yep, sure is. You feel helpless, like you wish you could do something.
Yeah. I mean,
The scope
I kind of
is
feel
huge.
bad. I was like drinking and partying all day Saturday, and it was like 200 miles away from me is a disaster going on. I didn't know. Didn't know that
right.
much.
Oh, I'm glad you got out of there all right.
Yeah. Mrs. Mike wouldn't have let me go anyway. She would have been like, stay here, party.
Oh, boy. Well, we should be getting the remnants of that this weekend, I would think. But
Well,
maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Helene is long gone, but maybe there'll be the remnants or something else.
Yeah.
All right. So this prompted me, Stomp, to take a look at Hurricane Irene, which was a big storm that dumped, I think, like 8 to 10 inches of rain in New Hampshire and the White Mountains. So I think that this originally hit like New York. I think this was the one that whacked New York and Long Island really bad.
Yeah. I was trying to think of where I was at the time, and I remember now. I was madly in love with Mrs. Stomp because we met in 2010.
Okay.
Interesting. So that's why I don't have any really solid memories of this damn event. And this was pre-hiking bug, Mrs. Stomp, so we weren't into the hiking together at the time. So our mind was not focused.
And it might have been like the June of 2011 might have been when me and you actually first met, and we did that first race. That might have been the Mount Washington race, because I think you and Mrs. Stomp were like newly coupled.
For sure.
Yeah, she was like, "You guys are insane. Like, why would anyone ever climb a mountain? That's nuts." And now look at her. Yeah,
right. Gee whiz, crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, August 28th, 2011, Hurricane Irene made landfall near New York City, and then promptly made its way up. Basically, rode right along the border of New York and New England. I think maybe it went a little bit to the east there. But yeah, it started cutting into the east and followed the border of Vermont and New Hampshire. So I guess the strongest winds across New Hampshire were 63 miles an hour in Portsmouth, 52 miles an hour in Concord, 51 in Manchester, 48 in Laconia. Mount Washington had a gust of up to 104, and then 120 as it started passing away. And here it said the combination of wet soil and prolonged periods of strong gusty winds brought down numerous trees across the state. There was one person killed and 3 people injured due to falling trees and branches. I guess in Wolfboro, a 30-year-old man was killed and a 60-year-old man was injured when a tree fell on them while they were cleaning debris in the roadway. Like I said, it was 8 inches of rain at the max here. So 1.5 to 3 inches, southern New Hampshire, 3 to 6 across most of the remainder of the state. White Mountains were 5 to 8 inches, and then rainfall was elevated dependent on the highest elevations receiving the greatest amount. So much of the rain fall. It wasn't so much the amount, it was that it only fell across several hours, causing flash flooding of rivers and streams. So many bridges and roads were washed out and damaged. There was 7 inches over Pinkham Notch, Bartlett, and Randolph, and between 6 and 7 in Gorham and Wolfboro and Center Sandwich. And then the highest amount was Sergeant's Purchase, which is Mount Washington Observatory. So
that's right. I have a stat here too. The Pemi River in Holderness reached its 7th highest crest of all time at 21 feet. So if you can imagine that, if you're familiar with the covered bridge in the Plymouth area, the water's basically up to the bridge. It's incredible. Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably the most well-known damage that happened here is the washout of the Sawyer River Bridge on 302. So 302 up near Sawyer River Road got washed out completely. So you could not go from Bartlett and North Conway and Bartlett up to like the Highland Center. It was washed out completely. So that road basically lifted up the way the bridge is, and you couldn't get to it because it was washed out. And then the Saco River upstream, there was homes that were flooded due to a breach in the levee, and it was just significant damage for a time. And I can't remember how long 302 was shut down, but it was for a while. Matter of fact, I was doing Reach the Beach that year, and we had to drive around, and it was a pain in the neck.
Wow. Crazy.
So yeah, natural disasters do happen, Stomp. Hopefully we won't have anything anytime soon. And then I will also include in the show notes, there's a fun, if you go to the View from the Top forum and you do a search for Irene, there's some fun discussions on where to go to repair stuff. So there was a lot of concern about the North Twin Trail. There was concerns about Zeeland. There was some concerns about, I guess, Edmonds Path got wiped out at that top section completely. And they were just sort of comparing it to some other storms. And it was interesting to see the arguments online. So everyone wanted to get out and start clearing areas, but the Forest Service was warning people not to go out because they didn't want them, I guess, going out there until they had sort of cleared some of the Widowmaker trees, and they wanted everything to settle down. And people were like, I'm not listening to them. I'm going to go out and start clearing.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Some things never change.
Yeah. I remember locally, right here, there's the Scour. That was ruined by Irene. So they had to rebuild that entire trail system coming off of Greeley Pond Trail, and they had to remake the whole new thing. That was ruined. A lot of trails got damaged permanently and had to just be remade and redirected. Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They had, I'm just reading right here. There's just people talking about how I went and I checked the Twinway to lend a hand and cleared it all out. It's in good shape. Zeeland Trail is in good shape today. Ammo Ravine had to be a lot of blowdowns, and there's a lot of talk about just organizing what, who's getting what trails and what's clear and what's not. So
right, amazing.
So anyway, the weather, I'm sure there'll be at least one or two. You have 55 Stomp. It may not be, but at least for me, I'll probably have at least one or two more big hurricanes.
I'm planning on living up to Jimmy Carter's age if I.
You are?
Oh, yeah.
He looked
rough
yesterday. I felt bad for him. If that's how I'm going to live to be 100, I don't want to live.
Yeah, he looked pretty shriveled up, poor guy.
Yeah,
but still smiling.
Yeah, he lived a heck of a life.
Wow, no kidding.
Yep. Speaking of heck of a life, Stomp, Eric Todd Sweet, a frequent guest on the show and a White Mountain celebrity. I guess he is hiking here for his 200th summit this Saturday, and you're thinking the weather looks a little sketch?
Yeah, just be aware. I'm sure that won't really stop many people, but the temp will be 61. There is a 45% chance currently of rain Saturday, so the trails are going to be a little bit wet. And this is pretty much in the Bretton Woods area. Probably raining a bit up until 10. But who knows what's going to happen. So be real safe out there. And congrats, Eric. I don't think I can make it, actually. But I think Nobby and a few other folks are joining. So have a good time.
Well, I'm looking at the weather right now in Brownfield, Maine, and it looks like rain in the morning, but it looks like it's clearing in the afternoon. I will not be joining you, Eric, but congratulations on number 200. But I will be at the Freiburg Fair eating bloomin' onions and French fries.
That's great. Working on your figure.
And touring RVs, campers. That's my favorite thing to do. I go into all the campers, and then I also look at all the tractors. And I go, I like that tractor, and I don't like that one, and I like this one.
Yeah, like you're gonna use one.
Exactly. I'm like, well, someday I'll need a tractor.
Why not?
I don't know. I know, like, for some reason, I feel like I know. I feel like I can pick a good tractor and a bad tractor.
You've got it all figured out, huh?
I don't know. I just go with instinct, and I'm like, that one's a good one. That one's not so good. You know what else I like looking at the fairs is the wood cutting machines. They have like the mobile sawmills that you can check out.
Yeah,
I like those.
Incredible.
I could use one of them. Yeah, I could use one of them.
Hell yeah! Build your addition.
Yeah, I could do that.
Put it all together.
Make my own 2x4s.
Right. Put them up there, a couple nails, good to go.
Dude, I would do one, and I'd be like, all right, I'm bored. I'm going hiking.
That's great.
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times. So here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. Ba-dum-bum.
All right, Stomp. This is the part of the show where I am completely unprepared for a dad joke.
Oh, boy. That's all right. What you got?
Hold on, I got something. Camilla sent me something. Okay.
The buildup is killing me here.
All right, well, never mind. I thought she sent me something. Somebody sent me a really good... all right, here we go. She sent me a picture that says frog parking only. And then it said all others will be towed. But it's not towed, T-O-W. It's T-O-A-D.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really digging the bottom of the barrel there.
Yeah, that was good. All right, well, here's another one. What did one toilet say to the other?
I give up.
You look a bit flushed. You know what I mean? You're like flush on your face. So, anyway, those are horrible.
Bump.
Hey, what's that sound? It must be time for the pop culture segment with Mike and Stomp.
All right, Stomp, this is the part of the show where we talk about pop culture. We haven't really done a lot of pop culture lately. Bit of a lull here, but what are you looking at? What are you into?
Last night,
interest, Stomp.
I saw this trailer pop up for a new movie, and it stars my favorite Hobbit, Elijah Wood, and it's called Bookworm. And what's really neat about this movie, I think it's been released in Australia and some remote places, so it's not released here. We'll give you the trailer, but it's a young 11-year-old girl, and basically her world is turned upside down according to the description here, when her estranged father, the washed-up magician, who is Elijah Wood, Strawn Wise, comes...
Yeah, it's a little kind of a nod to Samwise.
Yeah, it's interesting. So he comes to look after her and agrees to take her on a camping adventure to find a mythological beast known as the Canterbury Panther. But the trailer looks phenomenal. And it's all outdoors, it's all hiking, and it's just tenting, and the whole thing. So I'm really curious to see how this does. And so that's looking cool. I haven't really been watching much else. We plan to see Joker this weekend, Joker Part 2. And that's about it.
Yeah, I've been a bit of a I was flying, so I had downloaded on Netflix Mr. McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Vince, it's a 6-part biopic about Vince McMahon from the WWF, WWE. So I thought that was really fascinating. And then I've been watching the TV show From. Have you heard of the show From?
I keep on seeing the ad for it, and a number of people have said it's really phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. I watched like the first season on Amazon because it was free, and now like I can't get the other seasons because you have to like they suck you in, and I have to get a subscription to MGM Plus, which I'm not doing. But season 1 was excellent. And then I've been watching, me and Mrs. Mike have been watching Below Deck, and Caroline's been joining us. So we watch Below Deck, Mediterranean, because we love Captain Sandy.
What's that about?
It's a reality show about people that they work on like these yachts in the Mediterranean.
The serving staff?
Yeah, it's a serving staff. So you have like the stewardesses. Then you have the bosun and the deckhands, right? And then you have the chef, and then you have the captain, and then the guests come on board, and calamity ensues.
Yeah, I think I saw one snippet of a guest trying to talk one of the stewards into coming into a hot tub, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that." Is that the show?
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, it gets a little creepy. Sometimes the guests are horrible people, and sometimes they're really nice. Yeah. So anyway, but so that's what we're into. A lot of TV, a lot of nonsense Stomp that we're up to here. But you're not into as much nonsense as I am because you actually did a little work for the show and found a plasma lighter that you wanted to talk about in gear.
Are you ready for Slasher's Gear Review?
Holy moly. Yeah, it's like after this weekend trying to get a soaked fire started for 2 hours. I stumbled upon this, and it's not butane, it's a plasma lighter, and they claim it's 20 times more powerful than a regular lighter. It's an arc lighter, so it makes a plasma arc, which those have been around for a couple of years now, but this thing apparently can shoot a 7-inch long plasma. It's like a lightsaber. It's like a mini lightsaber. 1700, 1800 degrees, and windproof or waterproof casing. It recharges on USB. There's a safety lock. It looks incredible, but for those trying to start fires or whatever, there you go. So check it out. It looks really neat.
It's $40, so that looks pretty good.
Yeah, $40. It's highly rated, thousands of reviews, and if you go to Amazon and look up plasma lighters, you'll find the cheaper ones, but they don't have the range of 6 to 7 inches, which is, I would think, trying to start a fire, a little arc lighter is not going to do the trick. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yep.
So pretty neat stuff out there.
Okay, well, that's good to know, Stomp. And then we got some plugs here we got to do, right?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, at this point, you can get your stickers at Ski Fanatics and Spinners, and I just want to say happy 30th anniversary to the Spinners crew, Pops and Dolls, down in Andover, off of Dascombe Road, Andover, Mass. Their 30th anniversary is this October, so congrats.
Is it their 30th anniversary, like wedding, or that
shop?
Their store has been open?
The pizza shop. Yeah, they opened up in 1994, and they've been making... Their ad here is specializing in hand-spun thin-crust Italian pizza, homemade sauce. It's been the region's #1 pizza shop forever, so that's a cool achievement. So congrats to them. Yeah. What else? We have swag up at the bonfire shop. Those are flying off the racks. And this week we had a coffee donation through the Buy Me a Coffee website off of the Instagram link tree, and someone, quote unquote, someone in Texas donated 6. They really enjoy the podcast. So thank you, someone, whoever you are. Who do you think that is?
Excellent.
I
don't know. I don't know anybody Rogan in Texas. Maybe. Oh my God, imagine. But stop, just going back to Spinners for a second. So 30 years they've been open. Breaking news. I know that you're a Route 1 sort of Saugus guy. Yeah. The Continental restaurant is closing effective right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what town is that in?
That's in Saugus. So the Continental is one of the classic restaurants. It's sort of like almost directly across from Prince, but it's on the northbound side.
I've been there once. Isn't it more of like the high school prom type of building?
I don't know about that, but it's got like It has a lot of leather on the walls. It's very it's right out of the 1950s.
Okay.
It's got big, thick doors. Like the doors, no joke, are like 1.5 feet wide.
Right.
And then it has like a function hall upstairs, but it's very like dated. It's very sad in there. My father loves it, so we go in there. But they have the bean dip salad that you get, and then they have those like popover things, the breaded.
Oh yeah.
They're in like a muffin top, but they're like very flaky.
Yeah.
And then they also have those those donut type of things that are they pour like a strawberry sauce on top of them or whatever.
Right.
So like by the time before you even ordered anything, you filled up on bread and bean dip and these other things. But I think it's just a model that I think all the customers just died on them.
Pretty much. Yeah, I can imagine. It's a time capsule for sure. There's another place like that on Route 114 in Danvers. I forget the name of the restaurant. It's on the right. That was another popular spot. With the guy.
That was Teresa's. Well, Teresa's was the other one that was in Middleton. That one's closed too.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
But, yeah, I'm pretty sure I had like a high school prom dinner at that place once.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we thought it was tacky back then.
Yeah, I mean, on Route 1, the only thing that's left at this point is Prince, which is where I don't know if I mentioned that. I worked there for like 10 years when I was in high school and college. And then there's also Kowloon, but Kowloon is closing, I think, in about a year or two, and then they're going to be... they're going to reopen, but they're knocking down that building, and I think they're developing like a mixed-use retail and residential area, the same thing they did over on the Hilltop side, and then they'll reopen with a smaller version of Kowloon. That's what the last I read. Right. So
that's a shame.
Prince is the last one.
Wow, I haven't been on that route for many, many years. I'm sure it's completely different.
Yeah. So we're talking about Route 1 in Saugus for all my North Shore listeners.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, Stomp, this is the part of the show where, oh my God, I just realized I failed Sober October. I didn't even realize.
Part
of the show we talk about what beer we're drinking. But actually, before we do that, we've got to do a sponsor here, so Vaucluse.
Yes, our special guest this week, Vaucluse Gear. So does your backpack not provide enough ventilation? Does your back sweat too much when backpacking? As you know, sweat can be extremely uncomfortable on the trails, and it's a serious risk factor in both hot and cold climates. As your clothes get wet, your core temperature can dramatically fluctuate, and this can result in hypothermia, heat exhaustion, and dehydration. And let's not forget, it's just very uncomfortable. Today's your lucky day because we have good news for you. There's a piece of gear that solves the sweat and ventilation problem, making your backpack more comfortable. Vaucluse Gear's Ultralight Backpack Ventilation Frame. This ultralight frame is a backpack accessory that easily installs in your favorite pack, size 15 liters to 45 liters, and creates a ventilating airflow gap between you and your pack. It's also ultralight, weighing around 3 ounces, which is equivalent to a pair of wool socks. Whether hiking in hot or cold temps, the ultralight backpack ventilation frame from Vaucluse Gear is a real game changer regarding airflow and ventilation. So visit VaucluseGear.com to order an ultralight frame today. Use promo code SLASHER, SLASR, to enjoy a $5 discount and let them know that Mike and Stomp sent you.
Very good, very good. So this is the part of the show where we do our beer talk. So Stomp's doing Sober October. I forgot about Sober October. I would have. This will be my last beer for the month, but I am drinking a lunch IPA from Maine Beer Company, and that's what we were talking about earlier in the show. I have a giant bottle.
Wow. So what is that? What's the percentage on it? Does it say?
It says 7%.
Whoa. I'm getting all sweaty looking at it.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it. Looks
Yummy.
like it says 1 pint. How many ounces is that?
You just tortured me.
Yep.
You know what I'm thinking?
Lunch is a finback whale that was spotted off the coast of Maine as early as 1982. Her dorsal... Oh, I didn't know that. It's named after a whale. I didn't know that.
Oh, very cool. Okay, that's a great shot of you picking up that bottle.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking of doing is actually going. This would be. It's like a super extended Pemi loop. So what I'm going to do is extend it out to the November 16th full conditions. So I think I might go from today or yesterday till November 16th. So a super extended Sober October. What do you think about that? Overachiever?
Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe I'll join you, but I'll wait until... We're supposed to go to Tuckerman Brewing after the Freiburg Fair on Saturday, Stomp.
Oh, you can have one cheat. Come on. One cheat's good. Okay. One cheat.
Deal. Okay, this is part of the show where we talk about recent hikes. Stomp, I've been nowhere. I was in Elon, North Carolina, drinking beers all weekend, so hopefully you carried us with the hiking content.
I've been out a bit. Yeah. Let's see. I've done my little loops here around WD, Welch Dickey, and Black Mountain and stuff like that. But the big enchilada for the weekend here was joining Dave Shits in the Woods, beep, and Liz Faye and Nobby Hikes for Dave's 100 highest or 104 highest finish on the Captain. And we'd been planning this for a while, and the weather worked out really well. And Dave's big plan was to have it be a 2-night backpack to really just celebrate and enjoy it. And it worked out really well. So Friday morning, Dave and Liz ended up taking their bikes and riding up Sawyer River Road early. And I had virtual PT that morning, so I got a later start. Nobby showed up here in Campton, early afternoon. And we swapped out cars and got to Sawyer maybe around 1:32 and got the bikes ready to go. I had purchased... I didn't purchase. My folks found a kid caboose for the back of my bike for like $30, and that thing attached to my bike really well. My bike's a piece of junk. It's a mountain bike. It's an old Miata. Yeah. And did the job though. So I put my pack. I think I had like at least probably 60 pounds, maybe, with all the junk. Okay. And we took a couple beverages up. Like I dragged up like a 4-pack of ciders, just to celebrate with Dave. And Nobby wore his heavy pack on his back as we were riding up. Can you imagine? So big, heavy pack riding 5 miles up Sawyer River Road to the end of Sawyer. So you have to pass Signal Ridge Trailhead and then go another mile and a half to get to the gate. And he was sort of hurting. Actually, they were all sort of hurting, but the caboose worked really well. I was feeling good. It worked out good. So then from there, we had that extra 2 miles going up. I think it's Fire Road, 56 or something like that. Another mile and a half, 2 miles. Dropped the bikes off, hiked in 2 miles to the climbers camp. And surprisingly, we got there very shortly after Dave and Liz got there, and they were just putting their packs down and starting to relax. And it's really funny. Dave was poking me about it, but the second I showed up, it was near dusk. So I was like, let's go up the slide. So at the base of this rock slide is where the climbers camp is. It's one of these dispersed campsites. That's really cool. Up the slide, it's maybe a 1/10 of a mile. You get this killer view of the Captain and the backside or the east side of the Hancocks, and then Mount Carrigain as well. It's a really neat spot. It's very, very condensed. It's reminiscent.
Yeah, you're as remote as remote gets in the White Mountains.
Yeah, it's a really interesting area. There's very few animals. There were no birds chirping, no crickets. I mean, it is a dead zone. That's the best description of it. We maybe heard a bird all weekend long, like maybe once or twice, but literally no activity in there. You do hear the running water.
Water sources pretty close by?
Yeah, we were maybe a couple hundred feet away from brooks, and you can hear the water. You just have to hike a ways to get to it. So yeah, we set up the tents. We had 4 separate tents going. Dave actually had his hammock set up, which was really nice. Gigantic fire ring, which is great. So Saturday morning, we woke up bright and early, and we found a climber's trail that took us more or less to the base of the Captain itself, and then pittered out within, say, 100 yards of the cliff wall itself. And last week we did have a poll, but from the listeners to tell us which way to go. So there was 3 options, essentially. You could do the northwest corner, which wraps around the left side of the Captain and scoops around the back. You can go up the central, which is just southeast.
Is that where that like chasm section is that you have to?
It's a call
you have to avoid.
It's a call between the Captain and the Hancocks. That would be the northwest. The Central was the southeast side of the cliffs, which is basically coming right down the end of the cliff. And then there was a third option, which would drop us back down this gully, straight back to the campsite. So we ended up with the first one going northwest, and we scooped all the way around the backside of the Captain. And it was interesting working with Dave and Liz because different styles. They love their GPS, and I'm not knocking it. I think it's fantastic. But Liz was using some app that was LiDAR, so it was showing us the density of the vegetation, so it could give us some hint as to where to go. Should we stay on this elevation and just skirt around? Do we go up? It was really handy. Halfway up, you would have loved this. We found a lecky ski pole with a basket on it, and then 10 feet up from there, Dave found it was like we didn't touch it. It was just a little unusual. So it was like a Gore-Tex black fabric, almost like a rain or winter jacket. A little unusual for where we were in the middle of literally nowhere. We marked that location and sent it along to the authorities just in case. You never know if there's some cold case floating out there. And all the while, Mark is funny. Mark's like, he's a little green with the bushwhacking thing, but he's strong. He's really hard and fast. Yeah. But I was calling him Greeley because he would just like disappear and go bushwhacking 100 yards ahead of us. We'd be like, Nobby, where are you? We had to rein him back in a couple of times. Back to the skirt around. So we're ascending the Captain. We had a boulder overlook that looked into the desolation towards Nancy Pond, Tomfield Willie, the backside of that. Absolutely beautiful. You could see the foliage popping in. Thickest scrub I've probably experienced was on this back point 1 to the summit register. It was so thick it was ridiculous. At some point during this little stretch, I scratched my cornea. And it was almost like a pine needle brushed along my head. I still have a little scratch here and then across my upper eyebrow on my left eye.
Were you wearing your safety glasses?
I never do. I just don't.
Shame.
I don't even like sunglasses.
Yeah, but you need to wear them. Like it's.
I suppose
exactly for what happened is why you need to wear them.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a tough old coot when it comes to that. But I paid the price because it didn't stop bothering me until we got to the register. We had our fun up there, and it was starting to get red. And then we opted to go down the central way back to the campsite, which was a great decision because it got us down within like an hour, maybe. We cruised. But the second I got back to the campsite, the adrenaline dropped, and all of a sudden I couldn't see. I couldn't open up my eyes, and I ended up just laying down on my pad for 6 to 8 hours. So anyway, it was a nice night, though, after. It was quite the achievement, and just want to say congrats to Dave and Liz and Nobby. It was a great crew to hike with. Really fun time, and the weather was just phenomenal. Good stuff.
Do you now that you've been gone to the Captain, like what is this, probably your 4th or 5th time, do you feel like, I remember when you went the first time it was such a big deal and it was so confusing on trying to find the summit and all that. Yeah. You feel like you've got this thing down now, it's pretty easy?
Yeah. The central route and the gully route, know it cold, but this new route, the northwest corner, is a whole different ball of wax. Not too difficult. I mean, it sort of funnels you where you need to go. And just for that one rocky overlook, as you're approaching the summit from that backside, it's worth that route. Absolutely. I remember some other people had gone that route that we know from the hiking groups, and they had said it was easy. I didn't think it was that easy. I thought it was pretty challenging. Dave and Liz thought it was much easier than they expected. But yeah, more or less, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the spot now. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good time.
Right. Well, congratulations to all of you. Congratulations, Dave. You're still not getting Notable Hike of the Week, but congratulations nonetheless.
Speaking of Notable Hike of the Week.
Yeah, speaking of, we've got a few here, not a ton, but...
Yeah, people, let's see what we have here. So if you want to tag Slasher on your adventure to be considered for the Slasher Hike of the Week, do so, and we will do our best to list your adventure. So this week we have Jennifer Belkis Gulkazian. Apologize if I don't say that right, Jennifer, but she finished the New Hampshire 48 4,000 footers on Carrigain with cheese fondue Congratulations, Jennifer.
Yeah, hoity-toity finish there. It's impressive.
Yes, I'm amazed that she kept it fresh. There must be a secret there. The Jakester climbed the eaglet with a guide. Very cool. It's something I want to do. Let's see. Liz Fay is notable here for the captain for Dave's finish. Zach Camo hiked 9 out of 48 for the 4,000 footers on Franconia Ridge, tackling a couple of those peaks. Dave Schitz, of course, tagged us for the captain for 104 out of 104 for the New Hampshire highest 100. In the Woods 29, this is a monster. He did 35 miles on the AT, covering several peaks from Crocker Mountain to Saddleback, bringing him to 63 peaks out of the New England 67 highest. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's a monster. Mountain Ginger went way the hell up to McGalloway for the Foliage. And McGalloway, for those that are curious, that's on the New Hampshire highest 500. Maybe some others. But
it's on the 52 with a view as well.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes.
All right, couple more here. So Full Strength Coffee comes back to us with a Mount Moriah hike for the Foliage. Beautiful pictures. Mr. Conley hiked Whiteface and Passaconaway for his birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. Conley. And then finally, L.B. Boyd tackled Mount Abraham and Ellen in Vermont for the Vermont highest. I'm not quite sure what that brings L.B. Boyd to, but great list. So do we have a winner this week?
Let me see here. So Jennifer Belkis, she finished her 48, so we'll give her, and she did a cool write-up. I'll send it to you, Stomp. It was a nice story.
A write-up where?
It's just like a summary. She posted on the 4,000 footer group, and it's just sort of a summary of her adventure on Carrigain.
Got it.
It was well written. I thought we got a good reaction for everybody. So congratulations, Jennifer. I feel like she gave us a shout out at some point. So I like that.
You like shout outs?
Mountain Ginger. I'm biased towards Ginger Stomp because I got a redheaded kid. But she's kind of a pain in the ass. But Mountain Ginger is not a pain in the ass. We've met her. She's very nice. So we'll give her a shout out, a notable hike. And then Liz Fay. Amazing that she would go out and do the captain. Incredible.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, think about it. The captain.
Yeah.
Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Good
did
for her. Liz Fay gets it.
Absolutely amazing.
I can't give it to Jakester because he's my friend, so that's too much inside baseball. But anyway, congratulations to everybody for the notable hikers.
And there was much rejoicing.
Stomp, let's go into this segment. We'll catch up with our friend Brice from Vaucluse, and we'll come out on the other side. So,
all right. Beep,
Beep.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
Brice, welcome back. So you are stuck with me by myself. The Stomp is off doing Stomp things. I don't know exactly what that is, but you get the better half of the podcast anyway.
That's great. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, it's great to have you join us. So, I guess for the listeners, I think we've had you on a couple of times, and we talk about Vaucluse all the time. But why don't you just quickly just sort of introduce yourself, and then I want to talk a little bit about like some of the new products that you've put together. You've got backpacks now. You've got a mesh frame, but we'll talk a little bit about that because I get some feedback too. I've been using the new frame on my backpack. But why don't you just start off, introduce yourself, and a little bit about Vaucluse.
My name is Brice Sokolowski. I'm the president of Vaucluse Backpack Ventilation Gear, and we create external ultralight ventilation frames that you can attach on your favorite backpack, mostly backpacks that either don't have a frame or don't have some type of ventilation system. So you can keep your favorite backpack, attach our ventilation frame on it, and you've got the best of both worlds. You've got your favorite backpack, and now you've got you're cruising with more ventilation, more airflow on your back.
Yep, and you're on your second generation frame here. So the original one, I think, if my recollection is correct, so that was a 3D printed product that was a little heavy. I mean, these things are super light no matter which way you cut it. But the first generation was a little heavier. Now the second generation is pretty much dialed in at this point. I think, how many ounces is it right now?
Right now we're running at 3.3 ounces, which is just, I believe it's 94, 95 grams. And that's correct. We're on to our Generation 2. We've been around for about 2.5 years, 3 years. And Generation 1 was 3D printed, and it weighed about just under a pound, I think 15 ounces. And that's when we were doing the beta product testing, and we got great feedback. You guys were included in that. That's when I came across you guys. And yep. we found it was a great match to be collaborating. And now we're on our Gen 2, which has been out a little over a year now, and has been very, very exciting. The responses have been great, and we've seen tremendous growth as a new gear company.
Yeah, and we have a lot of friends and listeners that have used it, and I think my experience with the second generation, I've been using it for the last probably mostly the summer season, and the changes from the original one to the new one. So the original one had the Velcro that you use to mount it to your backpack. Now you have reusable zip ties, which I love. Those are much lighter and easier to maneuver. And then it's a two-piece. The one thing I'd say, and I've got a little bit of feedback from friends on this, is that it's because it's a light piece of gear. It comes in two pieces, so you have to basically put those two pieces together, and when you install it in your backpack, you want to make sure your backpack is pretty flat so that you can ensure that everything is connected, because it's a two-piece, and they basically connect through these little plastic pieces, and once one row basically goes in, it all lines up, and you just basically snap it in together. But you just need to make sure that every once in a while I'll do a quality check to just make sure they're holding.
Yeah, the reason we had designed it as two pieces is because the early feedback between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2, after the Gen 1, is people wanted to be able to disassemble and take on and off the frame. So that was one of the big requests. But fast forward a few months after we designed it and launched it, the feedback has been, well, I want to just keep it on my backpack, and I don't want to have to worry about it. And so the design, kind of, because it's two pieces, obviously when there's two pieces, sometimes, if something isn't one, it can kind of loosen or come apart. So Generation 3, which will, knock on wood, will be released mid to late next year. We're looking at fixing that problem. But before it wasn't a problem because people wanted it to be separate. So it's a two-piece system that works, and it's 5 times lighter than the previous version. So thanks to all the customer feedback on this journey that we're going on, where we continue to innovate in this space and create a product that a lot of people like.
Yeah, no, I like it. And I think the two-piece, I don't really have that big of an issue with it. Generally, what I'll do is I take everything out of my backpack usually the night before, and I just flatten it out, and then I'll make sure that all of the connecting points on the frame are sunk in, and then I just put everything back in, and then at that point it holds really well. So I use a 25-liter Ultimate Direction Fast Pack right now, and I feel like it's a perfect fit. I know some of my other friends that will use larger backpacks. I know some people that will use a little bit smaller. My daughter uses it as well. So, and the thing that I've found is I have stress tested this summer. Like I've hiked in crazy 90-degree humidity. I think the hottest day I did was a 90-degree humid day where I hiked this section in New Hampshire called the Baldface Loop, and I ended up bailing on the loop, but I ended up doing South Baldface, and there was no way that I wasn't going to be completely covered in sweat. But when I got above tree line, I was able to sort of angle my my back so that the wind is blowing like between my backpack and my back, and it dried out pretty quickly, and overall I wasn't super sweaty in my back no matter what. So that's the biggest stress test that I've had, but overall, like a normal day, keeps you dry every time.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you for that the feedback.
Yeah, when I'm not dealing with Arizona weather.
It's hot, but there's no humidity, so it's always a give and take with a climate. You're always going to get something. So unless you live in Southern California, which tends to be 70 most of the time, well, we're not all living there, but we both live in beautiful parts of the world.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then now how many years in are you with Vaucluse Gear, the company and everything? Is it 3 years?
Just under 3 years, 2.5. I count the first 5-6 months that it was kind of a doodle on a page part of it, but things are going quickly. I'm really, I guess looking back, it's kind of like climbing a mountain. You need to stop and kind of like look over the horizon. And you recognize, wow, I just climbed 1,000 feet in elevation. You don't notice it when you're on the trail because you're kind of like looking just in front of you, and you're just counting your steps, or just intaking your breathing. And sometimes when you're starting a company, definitely a gear company, you kind of just keep your head down. And so now, we've been 2.5 years, and things are moving fast, and things are growing.
Yeah, I'm curious about so obviously you have to wear a lot of different hats when you're in a startup environment, and in this type of company, obviously you have like your product design, you've got marketing, you've got inventory, logistics. Is there any particular area where you find that you really prefer to focus on one particular area, or do you find that you're able to, you don't really have a choice obviously, but do you find that like all those different skills that you need to be an entrepreneur in a startup environment, have you embraced them, or have you struggled in certain areas?
You embrace it. The great thing, I guess, about living in America, there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, and a lot of people who are passionate about doing something great. And my objective was to create a great product that was made here in the United States, and I've been able to find wonderful, great people that have helped me work on the production, the fabrication, the manufacturing, all of the heavy duty things that I don't really have that background. I have an engineering background, but not that. And it's just really nice. I don't know, I don't want to bore the audience with the minutia of starting a gear company, but it's a lot of fun. But definitely, it's like climbing a mountain. It's some days you're really wondering, why did I do this, and just leave me on the mountain to die, and that this is a great place to be. But I'm not dead yet, either on a mountain, or physically, or in the entrepreneurial world. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people, and I get to meet a lot of really cool customers. A lot of great feedback. I've got a laundry list of places that I need to go, because I get pictures of people showing me where they're hiking with the backpack frame and their backpack, and I'm amazed at how I already knew that America was beautiful, but some of the landscapes and the different mountains and the scenery is just out of this world.
Yeah. If I recall correctly, you didn't know that much about like the Northeast and New England and New Hampshire before you stumbled upon our little crew.
That's correct. It's definitely on my list. I'm hoping, knock on wood, that I come visit you guys. I would really, really love to go up there. It just seems incredible. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all of those. It's just absolutely unbelievable country where you guys are.
Yeah. This is the time of the year to come to, when the leaves are changing and there's foliage. So I'm excited. I'm getting up there on tomorrow night. I'm going to get up north. So we'll get you up there someday, Brice.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward. There's a lot of great people that I'd like to meet, that I've met through you guys, for sure.
Awesome. So just with the core product, so we have the Ultralight Backpack ventilation frame, and then you've recently also released a mesh sleeve. So you can buy, I think if you're not buying if you don't have one of these already, then I think buying like the ventilation frame and the mesh sleeve together makes the most sense, and then you can just mount them right to your backpack. But can you talk a little bit about the mesh sleeve?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in more ventilation, and you go on our website VaucluseGear.com, you're gonna see a very basic. The ventilation frame is a very simple. It's a piece of plastic. It's very basic because the second that you put any type of mesh or material or fabric, you start absorbing sweat, and then it's counterproductive. And so that was the initial design. And some of the feedback was, especially for thinner people or bonier people, not as much, meat on the bones, but they were wanting something a little bit more comfy, and so they liked the frame. But because it is a piece of plastic, they were like, if you could make this a bit more comfortable. And so we introduced the mesh sleeve, and I believe we introduced it in May of this year. So it really only June, July, August, September, so just over 4 months, and I've been shocked at how many. Now everybody just buys the mesh sleeve, because the mesh sleeve, there's two sides to it. There's a pocket mesh and there's a 3D mesh side. So you can kind of pick and choose with what type of ventilation and what type of comfort that you need. And so it's like a sock. You put it on, and I use it all the time now. I used to be. I thought it was something that for customers that I didn't need it, but now it's once I got the mesh sleeve, and I went out for I think it was a 28-mile hike this past weekend. I had my 55-liter backpack on, and I had my frame, and I had the mesh sleeve, and it's just a match made in heaven. It's super comfortable. I was packing probably a little over 30 pounds, and the mesh sleeve was providing that additional support between me and the frame. And while I was up, I think we were almost at 8,000 feet in elevation. Arizona gets really, really high up the further you go north, and I could just feel the breeze on my back. And so hopefully, if you're listening to this, check out our website, and it's really, really helpful in colder weather. I'm finding that was one of the things that I learned with you guys, is that back sweat and cold weather don't really work together.
Yeah. Winter hiking, you have to make sure that you manage your sweat so that you don't get, you can overheat and then get cold really quick once you stop moving. So it's a heat management thing. So that's interesting. So I'll definitely going to check out this mesh sleeve as well. I would suspect that the mesh sleeve would probably also help a little bit with the larger backpacks as well when you're mounting it up there. But I've never had any issues with comfort. I think that even the plastic directly on my back, I don't even ever notice it, honestly. So the next thing too that's interesting here is, since you last met with us, Vaucluse has released 3 new actual backpacks. Now, all the backpacks have a integrated pocket for the frame as well, but these are Dyneema Ultralight, so these are like right up there with the big boys. I don't know if you want me to name any of those competitors.
You can name them if you want to name them. Everybody,
like Hyperlight Gear is the one that, like, I think most of the people in New England, like a lot of them use it. These are the same material. But then you have 3 backpacks. You've got a 55-liter, which would be the overnight, and then you've got a 38-liter, which you could do as an ultralight overnight or a winter pack, and then you've got the 25-liter day pack that you could use for day hiking, and then you could probably work that out in winter as well up here in New England. So, and these are like the best quality material for Dyneema that's ultralight, waterproof. This is anybody that you see that's out there doing through hiking, they're using this material in their backpacks. So these are they're not comparable to like the Osprey, Gregory, Duders that you'll see in REI. These are like the ultralight high-end stuff, but they're priced a little bit more competitively than some of the other competitors. But can you give us a little bit of background on how did you come up with the idea to do this? What made you choose this material? And then some highlights of the backpacks.
Well, my frame is most popular with the ultralight community, and so I was in the local area. I found a company that makes ultralight backpacks. We started collaborating together because he makes his backpacks here in the United States, and obviously he's a user. He loves to backpack, and he designed an ultralight backpack that I think is very, very innovative. It has not just side pockets; it has two side pockets. So it has not just your typical side pocket where you can put your water bottle, but it has these massive side pockets to where you can put your water bottles. But it also has little, kind of smaller, but they're I wouldn't call them small, other pockets to put your snacks or put your phone or put your GPS or put anything. Because what I find interesting is that if you have a belt or you have a hip belt, you don't really need a pocket on the hip belt because it's just too small anyway. So it's like, you can probably put one or two things in the hip belt, but having pockets on the side are very helpful. So there's two side pockets on each side. So there's four. It's made out of Dyneema. It's made in the United States as opposed to some of the big boys. I think the only other ultralight backpack company that fabricates in the United States is Z-Packs. And so we're comparable to them in weight. Actually, yeah. I mean, well, they're really, really. I mean, they're the lightest of the light. They're almost they float. Almost how light they are. But we're comparable in price. Our design is a little bit different. They don't use, I don't believe, Dyneema. They use Ultra 100X. I'm not an expert in.
Okay, so slightly different material.
I don't know the exact difference between those two, but it definitely doesn't have a frame. Some of their backpacks, or they have a kind of a curved frame. I've used one of their. Don't get me wrong. Everybody makes great backpacks. So it's not to say that their backpack isn't good. But what I found is that if you're looking for, and that's kind of the challenge with ultralight backpacks, is one of the things that they take out is the frame, because the frame tends to be the heaviest part. And so what we've done is created a line of backpacks, ultralight backpacks, using Dyneema, made in the United States, that has really big pockets, 5 in total. So you got your back pocket as well. So it's made in the USA, Dyneema, very light, and then it has an external frame, which makes the weight comparable or even less than some of the other guys. Like if you mention a lot of people buy Hyperlight or Durston or Gossamer. They all make ultralight backpacks, but the challenge is they don't have a frame. So we have a ventilation frame that obviously provides support for your backpack. And we also we just released an external load-bearing backpack, 55 liter. So it has an external carbon fiber frame, and it has the ventilation frame as well. So I don't know of any other backpack, especially Dyneema, that is super light. I'm going to go to the page. Yeah,
it's 34 ounces on the specs, and then I think like the Z-Packs and the Hyperlights, I think, are somewhere around 31 ounces or 32 ounces, something like that. So it's almost exactly the same, but you have an external frame on there, which is interesting that it will keep it in it's carbon fiber external frame. I'm very curious to check this one out to see what the difference is in comfort between the frameless backpacks that Z-Packs and Hyperlight offer.
Yeah, I mean the challenge is with a large backpack like a 55 liter is that you've got so much stuff in it, it can kind of get annoying on the back. Now, to each their own. Some people, they don't mind it, but if you've got your bear canister in there, or if you've got a few other things, they might be kind of pushing on your back. it's nice to have something that's flat on your back, and that's what the ventilation frame does.
Yeah, and I think it looks like you've got some these big pockets definitely work out, and it looks like you can do some trickery with mounting different things in. Matter of fact, those pockets are big enough for a winter hike. You could put the snowshoes into those pockets as well. So
good idea. Yeah.
A lot of options there, and then you, in addition to the 55 liter is the big one. Then you've got a 38 liter, and then a 25 liter. So the 25 liter would be interesting for day hiking here in the Whites. You could certainly use this, and it's super light, probably comparable to the Ultimate Direction pack that a lot of us use here. But this is waterproof and probably about the same weight, it looks like. So. What was your thought around the sizing for the other two backpacks?
Those seem to be what most people are using. They're either using either a 25 liter day pack, a 38 liter if they're going for extended amount of time during the day, or I've seen some overnighters use a 38 liter, especially if you're not bringing a tent. So 38 liter tends to be a kind of a sweet spot between, still going light, but packing a few more things.
Yeah. And then do you have, these are all sold online. Do you have any plans to do any retail sales?
Eventually it's it's one of those walk before run, scenarios. I'm still, yeah. We're still learning here how to kind of promote the ventilation frame and the backpacks. It really is. I really try and listen to my customers, and my customers, they've given me a laundry list of things that they like and a laundry list of things that they would like, more of. So it's just a matter of, dissecting that, putting things on priority, and so far we're very, very busy with just having our e-commerce platform. We sell on, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Garage Grown Gear. We're friends with them, and we're on their platform. We're developing a relationship, you could say, with Backpacking Light. And then we've got, we're starting to get pretty big in Japan and South Korea. So I've got people also doing some bulk orders with those. So we're happy with the e-commerce way. Every year people seem to be spending more and more time and doing more and more of their sales on e-commerce, and so we're happy with that.
Wow. So here's my vision for you guys. So I see a retail store for Vaucluse in downtown Sedona. Nice storefront there. Nice cheap rental property, right?
I thought you were going to say up in the White Mountains somewhere.
Well, I could do that. That'll be next. But I know that you're in Arizona, so I know you're not going to move. But yeah, that was my vision, is like a nice storefront in Sedona.
It would be nice. It's eventually. It's one of those walk before you run. I'm having a lot of fun meeting a lot of gear companies, but I'm also learning it's a bit scary because, there's a lot of people out there that love sewing, love making gear. It's kind of a side hustle, or it's kind of a passion project. But I'm learning that it's like climbing a mountain, and sometimes you're on the ledge of a very, very big fall, and so it's you have to be careful. You have to navigate all of this stuff very, very carefully, because there's plenty of ways to lose a lot of money in this.
Yeah. And rapid growth sometimes can be just as scary as like not getting sales, because the last thing you want to do is overextend yourself.
Exactly. And so our objective is to be around for the long run. We've been profitable for the past, I would say, 11 months. And so that's really good. Awesome. And so where we Vaucluse Gear pays for itself, and so obviously that's how we can just grow and expand, and it's a lot of fun. But I can talk about the minutia of a gear company a whole lot, and it's eventually it would be nice to have a retail outlet store and kind of have, because I think a lot of people are going more and more ultralight. I think ultralight was more, it was definitely more niche than when I joined this wonderful adventure. But it seems like more and more people, especially when I'm on the trails and I hear customers, they tell me their stories that people, are looking at their backpacks and like what material is your backpack made out of, and what's that weird frame thing that you have on. And I think ultralight is becoming more and more mainstream to the point of, I think the original definition of ultralight was, packing a load that's less than 10 pounds. But now I think the definition is, just having a very, very light backpack and, having really cool gear inside of it that doesn't weigh a lot.
Yeah, I get people. So I'll take my backpack off when I'm on the summit or I'm taking a break, and many times I've gotten questions from people like, "Hey, what is that? What kind of back?" A lot of people just assume that it's integrated into the backpack that I have. Like one guy even said, he's like, "Hey, I have the same backpack, but I don't have that thing. Like, what is that?" And I had to explain to them like, "Oh, it's an external frame that you can buy separately." So it's a bit of a conversation starter because people don't see them all the time. So they're kind of curious, what is it?
Yeah. One of the objectives was, people already have a backpack. And so that's why I started this gear company, not making backpacks, because I knew that I could never make, there's hundreds of different, types of backpacks for different types of activities. And I knew that I couldn't really compete in the backpacking space because it's very complicated and it's very expensive. So we started out just doing the backpack frame as an accessory. So if you already have a great backpack and you don't want to put it back in the closet and think that you have to buy a new backpack and try and figure out, well, which one has the pockets that I like and which one has the interior that I like, you don't have to go off and buy a new backpack. You just upgrade the ventilation system by buying this external ventilation frame.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And Brice, it's not that I don't have the money anymore. I got no room for these backpacks in my basement anymore, but I got to buy some for my daughter's boyfriend for Christmas. So if I'm getting ready to gear up for shopping, how can I buy some of your products? Yes.
So visit VaucluseGear.com, or you can just Google backpack ventilation frame, backpack airflow. We tend to rank to the top, or they on the podcast. My link is going to be there as well. Or if you guys follow Slasher on Instagram, you can find me also on Instagram. And we're running great deals right now. We've got some big discounts for the frame and the sleeve. And what tends to happen because of the feedback that we've gotten is that most people who buy the frame have, more than, you alluded to it. You have more than one, definitely have more than one backpack, probably 5,
yep,
maybe 10. And so, the feedback used to be, we want to be able to take this frame off and be able to put it on another backpack. And now nobody does that. And so we found customers they tend not to buy 1, they buy 2, or they buy 4. And so we have some very good discounts for if you're buying 2, 3, or 4 frames. And so if you're listening to this now, more than likely the deals are on the website as we speak.
Awesome. Yeah. And the pricing for the backpacks too is pretty competitive. Like if you compare it to Z-Packs and the other ultralights, you'll see the pricing is definitely competitive. So get out there, check it out, and Christmas is coming for listeners. So
yes,
go get some gear.
It's the price again. They're made in the USA. There's definitely a warranty on them as well. But if you're looking for a high quality backpack that is light, and that's going to elevate. Probably, you're looking for that light and very sturdy backpack. I would highly recommend checking this out. I've put on the website also some tables that can kind of compare and contrast, our backpack and how it compares to the other guys, so you can kind of get a sense of, maybe supporting this made in USA, made in Arizona backpack company would be, maybe that's something I'm interested in.
Awesome. Well, I think last time you were on, Brice, I had asked the question, who was your favorite podcast co-host, Mike or Stomp? And at the time, you weren't able to answer because we were both there.
Oh, it's Mike.
Awkward. But now,
it's you.
Yeah, of course. So we'll just keep it between me and you.
Yeah, we'll keep it me and you. Yeah.
Yes. Stomp will never know. So, but anything else you want to cover, Brice, before we let you get back to the beautiful Arizona weather?
Just a big thanks to you guys. I get customers emailing me because I always ask, where do you hear from us? And every time it's a Slasher fan, they let me know and they say that they love you guys, they love the podcast, and that they were happy to find us. So I'm really appreciative of everything that you guys do to get the word out, but also that you guys make a great podcast that people are listening and they really, really do enjoy it, and I listen as well. And to give Stomp some credit, I do like his music, his DJ or his mixing.
Yes,
that I would recommend that for anybody who has some serious elevation on their next hike. If you want to just find something that will just get you through a few hundred or even a few hundred feet of elevation, just put in your headphones and listen to Stomp.
Yeah, I got to give him credit for that. I can't knock his DJ skills, so that's great. But Brice, thank you so much for joining us, and here's for everyone to sweating less, right?
Feel the breeze, sweat less.
That's right. All right, Stomp. I feel less sweaty already.
Yes. Hey, nice rhyme. Yeah, Brice is a great guy. I'm really proud to have Vaucluse as a sponsor for the podcast. They've been with us for a couple of years now, and people love the product. I'm still waiting for a 65 liter or plus.
Yep, the big one. The big one. We'll cover it. Cover it. So, but speaking of sweat, Stomp, I wanted to just do a quick segment on winter hiking.
Nice.
It's getting to be that time of the year, so I think if you really want to do a deep dive on winter hiking, we had our friend Karen and our friend Rebecca on for episodes 32 and 33. And then we did another recap. We do this like every year. I think we did another recap somewhere. Yeah, I think that's it. So episodes 32 and 33 and maybe episode 122. I can't remember, but those two are the ones that you really want to focus on. But people every year, they people have questions. I want to do winter hiking. I don't know where to start. So a couple of basic Stomp, and you can jump in at any time on this. But
sure.
The way I caution people is that you don't want to have a mindset that you're going to go fast and light. You have a smaller margin of error, and solo hiking is definitely riskier in the winter. So water can be challenging if you run out of water. So you don't want to be reckless. So the way that I think that we've always cautioned this is that everything's harder and slower in the winter. Although I would argue that sometimes the terrain's a little bit easier to navigate because you're not jumping rock to rock if there's a nice smooth trail.
Oh yeah,
broken out, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, but traditionally the way that you want to think about this is that you always want to pay attention to the weather. There's certain days where you want to stay below tree line if you know that the wind is going to be crazy or visibility is going to be an issue. Visibility is critical in the winter, so you do not want to mess around above tree line if there's going to be low visibility.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also have to remember that sometimes even if it's not snowing a lot, wind-blown snow can cover things up in minutes, so you need to be able to navigate. So visibility is critical, and then you always have to have multiple headlamps on you because it gets dark out really early in the winter time. So you have a limited window to hike because typically it's getting dark out at 4:30 or so.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's coming soon.
Yep. Yeah, Stomp. So you want to do logistics on the trailhead? You want to cover that?
Mm-hmm. Trailhead parking. They may not be plowed out. That is a fact. So make sure that...
bring a shovel.
Bring a shovel? Yeah, that's another good point, too. I have a shovel in my truck just in case I get stuck in a ditch or anything like that, but that is a possibility. Be aware of road closures. You may not be able to access your hike if they're present. Four-wheel drive is super handy. I can't imagine coming up here in a storm in all-wheel drive even, or two-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive is an absolute lifesaver. A quality snow rake. Do you have one of these, Mike?
I do.
I do not have one of these.
Yeah, I mean, a snow rake, it's basically like a piece of styrofoam, and then you like pull it, and it can clear things off. Just a lot easier than like those small brushes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Rubber mats, that's a handy fix. Sometimes you can put those rubber mats underneath your wheels if you're spinning and you're not getting anywhere if you do get stuck. I've actually done that for neighbors that come up from Mass to visit in the complex. Battery chargers, jumper cables, make sure that your battery's fresh. Jumper cables are key. I would absolutely avoid parking on the side of the road because the plows are out in force after storms and during storms. That's not a great idea. If you're able, you want to pull in as hard right as you can. Starting early? Yeah, you can start early, unless you're crazy like me.
Right. It gets dark very early in the afternoon. So the earlier you start, the better. And then always leave plans with people to let them know where you're going. But I think like for winter hiking, like the people that have never done it before, I think the first question that we typically get is like traction. Like everyone seems confused about snowshoes and what to do. So basically, you've got 3 devices that you want to think about. Is the first one is snowshoes. So I do recommend that you have to have snowshoes in the winter. Like you can get away with just microspikes if you're just going to stay down low and on a day in a period where it hasn't snowed a lot. But generally you want to have snowshoes, typically like a base model MSR Evo brand snowshoes will cost you like $149, $159. But you can buy used ones. You can get them a little bit cheaper. But snowshoes are one piece. You want to make sure you have mountaineering snowshoes. So typically like MSR, Tubbs, TSL, those are they're more aggressive crampons. They've got heel lifts, and then they're a little bit lighter than there is another type of snowshoe that's just like for walking on flat trails. You'll get these plastic ones from LL Bean. You don't want to do those. You want the real lightweight hiking ones.
Right. One comment on that. If there's a big storm with, say, like a foot of fresh powder and there's no foundation, snowshoes are going to be a nightmare. So you want to have a foundation of snow underneath that you're going to be working on. I've gone up, say, for instance, Tecumseh after a fresh storm without a foundation, and it's an absolute nightmare. So even though you're in some fresh, deeper snow, the snowshoes at times may not work, and those spikes may be the best bet.
Got it. Yeah. So basically, you get snowshoes, and then you have micro spikes, and then you have like more aggressive mountaineering crampons. So for me, I think if you're a beginning hiker, you want to have micro spikes and snowshoes. Crampons, unless you're doing something in the presidentials, typically you're not going to need those. Like if you're going up the Ammonoosuc after it's been icy, or you're going to be on Mount Washington or the Adams or Madison, maybe, but generally micro spikes and snowshoes. And typically with micro spikes, there's like different brands. There's Catulas, which they have a rubber gasket they wrap around your boots. And then Hill Sounds have a variety of different levels and aggressive levels of spikes. Like there's some Hill Sounds that are like micro spikes that are less aggressive, and then there's some that are sharper. So you can sort of pick what your preference is, but there's really not a big difference. And typically you would use micro spikes in situations where the trail is already broken out, and they're a little bit lighter, easier to navigate on snowshoes. If there's been any recent snow, then just sort of by etiquette, you want to wear snowshoes and make sure that you're cleaning up the trail. The only time you should really wear micro spikes is when you're not sinking in at all and the trail's pretty much like pack down significantly. Sometimes if it warms up in the afternoon and you're sinking in, you want to switch over to snowshoes. The goal is to keep the trail as clean as possible between those two.
You mentioned post-holing, the phenomena of post-holing.
Yeah. So people will complain about post-holing. So the goal with snowshoes is that you don't sink in. Some people will wear microspikes or they'll wear nothing. We call that bare booting, and you sink into the snow. And the problem with that is that when first of all, you're expanding a lot of energy by pulling your legs out of those holes. And then second of all, what ends up happening is those holes freeze. They typically expand a little bit. And then if anybody else is coming behind you, if they're not in snowshoes, they risk getting a twisted ankle or falling into a little hole. Yeah. So typically from a cultural perspective in the White Mountains, you want to look out for when it snows. Typically the locals will get out and break trails. The 4,000 footers are usually pretty well traveled. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So,
thank you, locals.
So if it snows out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and you don't want to break trail and you want a nice, clean trail, typically if you decide you're going to hike on a Sunday and it hasn't snowed, then you're going to be in good shape. So,
yeah. That's great.
If you're nervous about hiking alone or you need help learning how to do winter hiking, then I think I would keep an eye on the Hiking Buddies group. That's a good place to find people that are willing to go hiking with you, and they can teach you how to do winter hiking. Matter of fact, I'll probably run another group hike on the Buddies for winter. People want to join up, and I'll do a little intro to winter hiking up on Mount Pierce.
Sure, or guide services like Redline Guiding, Mike Cherum. Yeah,
Redline is perfect for anybody that's interested in learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, typically, I recommend the same thing you would do with any Mount Willard's a good first winter hike. Mount Pierce for 4,000 foot is a good winter hike.
Sure.
Any of the lower level 52 with the views. If you're nervous and you want to make sure that you're going to be around people, obviously go to more crowded areas to hike. That's why I like Pierce, and there's always people on there. So. Couple things on pack size. I typically recommend that you go with a larger backpack. So if you're doing winter hiking, I think that 40 ounces or 40 liters or above is better. I use a 55 liter pack. I know you use a 65 liter or whatever, but you need more room.
You do. I prefer the larger pack just because it's easier getting into the pack to find what I need. It's less crunched and consolidated. And you can pack more for just in case you find somebody on trail that needs a little extra help or whatever. So it's good to have a bigger pack.
Yep. As far as water and liquids go, you do need an insulated thermos. So you use an Nalgene bottle. You can buy these insulation tubes that go into them, and typically you'll stick it inside your backpack so it'll stay unfrozen. Stomp uses a wool sock and duct tape, so you can whatever you want to rig up to insulate your water is fine. And then I typically will recommend that people carry a thermos with hot liquid in it so that you have warm liquid when you get up to a cold area. Also recommend that you bring ground insulation, like a closed cell sleeping pad, a Z-rest typically.
Absolutely mandatory.
Thermarest,
it's mandatory. Absolutely mandatory.
Yep, mandatory, because if you sit directly on the ground, that cold temperature is going to basically bleed right into your body. So the purpose of the ground insulation is that you sit on that, and then it will buy you 8 to 9 hours of rest time for a rescue to come in. And then depending on the temperature, if it's really, really cold, you may even want to consider bringing a sleeping bag just as a protection, as a cautionary protection, just to buy even more time. And then the goal with winter hiking is that you need to manage your heat. The way that you manage your heat is by continuing to move. So you move and you take your layers off, and you typically can be down in a long sleeve shirt or a t-shirt even in freezing cold weather, and then when you stop, that's when you put in all your remaining layers. That's why having a big backpack where you can grab your down jacket quickly and put it on to retain that heat is helpful.
Right. And if you can't move, if you've tweaked your ankle and you're just sitting there, that's why you need the sleeping bag or a bivvy, a small handheld bivvy, just to keep your body warm.
Yeah, and the heavy clothes. As far as boots go, you can take a look on Section Hiker or REI or any of the backcountry. You can do some shopping around. I recommend that you go with 400-gram Thinsulate boots. And if you go on Section Hiker and just the best 10 winter boots for men, women, you can find whatever you need there. As far as a base layer goes, we recommend any mid-weight rated long underwear, wicking t-shirt, long sleeve wool shirt. I have like Nike stuff. I have Under Armour stuff. I have New Balance stuff. Like anything that's a wicking long sleeve shirt or a t-shirt is fine.
Right.
As far as pants go, I recommend soft shell pants so that you, and again, you want to assume that you're not going to be no rain or melting snow or anything like that. Soft shell pants will work really well for you. I use Marmont Scree pants, but there's also a ton of other brands out there. So any soft shell pants will do. They're a little bit thicker and warmer. And then I use a 2-layer rain pant from REI if I need a hard shell. So, what do you typically wear, Stomp?
Oh, I'm such the anomaly. I'm always wearing like an inner -33 layer, and then on top of that, I'll generally wear anything really. I know I'm not the best role model here, but they're generally hiking pants, water resistant. I do have like full blown above tree line, full Gore-Tex pants, but I'm generally only wearing that on extreme adventures where I'm going above tree line in sketchy weather. So yeah, the Marmots sound great. REI 2-layer rain pants. Yeah, again, it depends on the temps and what you're experiencing for precipitation.
Yeah, for sure. And then as far as socks go, I recommend, Darn Tough, Smart Wool, whatever you want. I personally recommend that you use a thinner layer. Like I use like a liner sock or a lightweight sock, and then I rely on my boots insulation. I get concerned if you wear really thick socks or you wear like 2 layers of socks. Circulation in your feet is critical, and I would rather have like a lighter pair of socks and have ensure that more circulation is going. And then when I'm moving and I'm generating heat, that warm blood flows into my feet, no problem, keeps my feet nice and warm, so I don't have any issues. The only time I get nervous about thicker socks is if I'm getting below 0 degrees and I'm going to be exposed above tree line for a long period of time. Then I'll do something bigger. But if you get a nice pair of boots, you shouldn't need super thick socks. You should just go with the thinner ones, give yourself a little bit of room to circulate.
Yeah, the socks are intimately tied to the boots. If you're not sure what you're getting for a boot, go to a store to have somebody that knows what they're doing fit you for the right boot, because again, space is important in a boot for circulation and heat. If they're tight, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, and your feet are going to expand and contract too in those boots, so you need to make sure you have a little bit of room to allow for that.
Yeah.
Another piece of gear that's important is a gaiter. So these gaiters, what this is it's typically nylon or Gore-Tex material. It's like it's a piece of material that wraps around the shin, just below your knee, and it usually has like a piece of like material that goes underneath your boot, and then it zips up. I have a outdoor research Crocs, which are a Gore-Tex brand, and it basically Velcros up. And what the gaiter does is it protects your feet from letting snow get into the top of your boot by covering up your boots up to your kneecap or so. So you can go into really deep snow without worrying about snow falling in and wetting your feet up.
Right, yeah. I generally wear those when I'm bushwhacking, not so much on trail. Generally, I have those elastic or cinch lowers for the pants that just hug my boots, and that tends to do the job. I tend to find my legs get really sweaty if I wear gaiters, so I just am not a fan.
Yep. And then next up, hats. I recommend, I typically bring 2 hats with me. I typically do like a lightweight hat, sort of like a beanie, like Stomp's wearing one right now. And I like the kind that you can very easily roll it up so that your ears are not covered, or you can roll it back down to cover your ears, because typically you're going to generate a lot of heat. And instead of you fiddling around with like taking your hat on or taking it off, if you just, uncover your ears and then just leave it sort of sitting on the top of your head, almost like a yarmulke, then it works out pretty well. You get that cool air blowing in, and then if you get too cold, you can just roll it back down. Alternatively, you can also just use like a headband, which I've done that before, and that covers up your ears. And then when you get too warm, you can just roll it up and put it in like a sort of like a Daniel LaRussa headband type of deal.
Oh yeah, those are great. Yeah, I tend to wear one or two hats. One for the descent that's dry, because I just soak the first one on the way up. So I try to think in that manner.
Yep. And then a glove system, this is pretty standard. Typically you want to use a three layer system where you have a liner glove, and then you'll have a mid-weight mitt, or I use like a sheepskin type of mitten, and then above that you want to have some heavy duty Gore-Tex shells. Typically you won't use all three at the same time unless you're like really above tree line in really cold conditions. But again, nothing too tight because you want to worry about circulation. But typically, you keep the liner gloves on for the majority of the time. If your hands start getting really cold, the best thing you can possibly do is start moving. You can use like hand warmers, or there's electric hand warmers that you can buy as well that work really well. But typically you want to rely on your movement to generate heat when your hands get cold.
Yeah, super important. I bring several pairs of thin liners and redundant gloves. I find it super important.
I typically have like my 3 layers, and then I've got like 2 sort of mid-weight liner gloves as well, because I'm thinking like if I run into someone that doesn't have the right gloves, or if I sweat too much, then I can swap them out. And then last but not least is a jacket. So typically you would have I typically have like a soft shell jacket, and then I have a down puff jacket, and then I've got a bunch of different like fleece pullovers as well that I'll use. But essentially, like the soft shell is great. You can wear that just hiking. You got to worry about sweating, of course, but you take that off, put it on as needed, and then when you stop moving, that's when you want to put on your puff down insulated jacket so you retain as much heat as you can. And typically you want to have a hood, and then I recommend something with a fill power of like 750 or 800 minimum. But you can take your pick. And then you always want to have a hard shell, which is like a thicker rain jacket that will break the wind in case you're above tree line.
Yeah, I tend to prefer just the hard shell with multiple zippers, like armpit zippers that you can moderate your heat, your temperature. I don't wear my down too often, to be honest with you, unless I'm sitting down for an extended period of time. But generally, the outer shell can handle it.
Yeah. I may be down for a new. I may be up for a new down jacket this year.
Down for an up for a down.
I may be down for a new down jacket. So, and then the remaining stuff, and then we'll move on to search and rescue news, is like a balaclava. You definitely want something. I usually take 2 of those, actually, just like the basically face masks. A neck gaiter you can also sometimes have. I typically don't use that, but I'll just use the balaclava. And then eye protection. You always want to have sunglasses on. And then if you are going above tree line in conditions, typically, you want to have goggles with you. And sometimes you want to have a backup pair of goggles, because if it's wind-blown snow or something like that, like a lot of times it's not unusual to freeze up your goggles. And then a pro tip that I'll tell you is that a lot of inexperienced hikers, matter of fact, if you want to ID an inexperienced winter hiker, it'll typically be a winter hiker that's hiking uphill with goggles on their forehead, above their, and you never want to do that, because what ends up happening is if you put the sweat will start sweating into the goggles, and then when you really need them, it'll be iced over. So you want to make sure that you protect your goggles, only put them on when you're ready to wear them above tree line.
Good points. I like there is some goggles too that are super deep depth. You can get some that are 2 inches. So just the closer they are to your face, the more they're going to freeze up and to get condensation on them. So they have some deep profile ones that are phenomenal with heavy ventilation.
Yeah, I finally spent money on a good pair of goggles, and it paid off last winter. So
great.
But like I said, it's all about moving. Like you just, in winter hiking, you have to be in a different mindset. Like you can't always like afford to just stop and hang out. Like you can for a while, and it depends on the conditions. But once you get below like 0 degrees, or you've got significant wind that you're dealing with, and you're going to be above tree line, moving to generate heat is the most critical safety factor that you need to think about. And if you're not prepared to do that physically, or you're not confident in it, then just stay low. Don't go above tree line. Avoid Franconia Ridge. Avoid the Presidentials. There's some hikes where you can dip your head up and say like, oh, I want to experience above tree line. I'm going to go Ammonoosuc, and I'm going to go to Lakes of the Clouds Hut, and then go back down Ammo or something like that. But you just have to, take it slow.
That's right. Good stuff.
Very good, Stomp. So let's move on to, and we'll continue to talk about winter hiking because it's coming up. But right now, let's move on to the recent search and rescue news.
All right.
I'm going to do this first one on Edmonds Path, Stomp, and then you can do the Tamworth one.
Sure.
So this is on Sunday, September 29th at 12:15. Fish and Game was notified of an injured hiker on Edmonds Path, 2 miles from the trailhead. So this is a ways up. So 25-year-old hiker from Somerville, Mass. was hiking when she slipped and fell, suffering a lower leg injury. So her hiking party attempted to treat the injury and continue on, but the hiker could not bear any weight, so they called 911, which is the right call. While waiting for rescuers, the hiker was able to descend with assistance from her hiking companions by scooting herself down the trail about 1,000 feet before rescuers arrived. So 22 volunteers from Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue and Pemmy Valley Search and Rescue responded to the call. Rescuers hiked up Edmonds Path and placed the hiker into a rescue litter and carried her down. So the call came in at 12:15. They got her, it doesn't say what time they met her on trail, but they got her to the parking lot at 4:30. She declined an ambulance ride and chose to seek medical treatment by having her hiking companions drive her to the medical facility. So good for them. They made their way down about 1,000 feet, and they probably saved the rescue team from having to hike in an extra mile or so. So they probably made it down to the lower elevation, and it was a relatively easy carry out. So good for them.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of people too.
Yes.
All right.
And on to you, Stomp.
Yeah, so now we have an injured hiker in Tamworth. This is last Friday, September 27th. Shortly before 8:30, Fish and Game was notified of a hiker who was injured on the Hammond Trail on Mount Chicora. Pretty notorious trail for these types of incidents. This hiker was hiking with 3 friends when she injured her ankle and was able to continue hiking with the injury, but the progress was slowed. And here come the lessons here that are really important. They called for help when they realized that their phone batteries were running low and that their lights were failing. So what are the 2 things you can do there? Yeah, I mean, classic. So batteries are running low, probably the cold temps, maybe not, and their lights were failing. So that's where the redundancy in the lights comes in really handy. So they were nearly 2.5 miles out from the trailhead when they were forced to stop walking. Fish and Game officers responded and just came up to escort them out. Basically, they splintered her ankle and they were given lights, and she made her way out with the escort of Fish and Game. So a couple of really important lessons there that we just talked about recently. So they made it out shortly after 3:30 a.m.
Oh, that's a long night.
It sure is. But, yeah, they'll learn the lesson. They'll bring the... did you touch upon communication in that last section? If you don't have a cell phone, what else can you have? In reach.
Well, that's it. So yeah, like I actually didn't touch on that with winter hiking, but yeah, like obviously like an in reach Garmin.
Yeah.
But the thing too in winter, the other thing you have to factor in is that the battery life of the phones is quick. A problem. I typically will use like a hand warmer. My daughter's boyfriend got me like these electric hand warmers that are a little heavy, but I love them and they last forever. So I'll like put it on low and just put that in the in a pocket with my phone, and it keeps the phone nice and warm. So you want to just kind of protect it. But yeah, you have to just factor in that like the cold weather is going to kill your phone time and
right.
You know, so something like an InReach or a Garmin is going to be the best option for you.
Right. Excellent.
All right, Stomp, you want to go to Mount Monadnock?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so on September 29th, 3:30 p.m., Monadnock State Park staff were notified of a hiker that was suffering from possible life-threatening conditions. So the crew of the Monadnock State Park employees met with the hiker at 3:38 p.m. and began to assess her condition. After speaking with her and gathering information, it was apparent that the hiker was experiencing a medical emergency. So Fish and Game was notified at 4 o'clock of the situation, which prompted a response from the nearest available conservation officers. A decision was made to call Boston Medflight helicopter due to the time-sensitive nature of the hiker's condition. By 4:30, rangers had prepared a landing zone above tree line for the helicopter. Helicopter landed around 5 p.m. and the hiker was quickly loaded inside. By 5:30, the helicopter was airborne and en route to Elliott Hospital in Manchester, where the hiker would receive further medical treatment. So very lucky hiker there that they were able to get to her so quickly.
That's always so challenging.
Yeah.
It's so urgent when somebody's having a problem up there. Well, hopefully we'll get an update on that at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I said she. Is there even, like, did it even mention if it was a he or she?
Very few details. No age of the hiker.
Yeah, I said her condition. So, yeah, it is a female hiker. So,
right.
Yeah.
Curious about the age.
Well, good. I hope she's feeling better and, you know, very, very lucky that they were able to move that quickly.
And then
this next one is in, you want to do this one? I want to see how you pronounce this.
Oh, Wapak.
Is that what it is? Wapak?
Wapak, I believe so.
Wapak?
Yeah, so this is in Greenfield, New Hampshire. September 29th, 3 p.m., Fish and Game receives notification of an injured hiker in Greenfield. The hiker was in the Wapak National Wildlife Refuge. The 911 caller reported that the hiker, who was later identified as blank, of Merrimack, New Hampshire, was hiking with her family, and she fell while descending Caroline's Trail and sustained a lower leg injury. Let's see. Upon notification of the incident, personnel from Greenfield Fire Department, Lindenborough Fire Department, Peterborough Fire Department, Temple Fire Department, several others, Fish and Game officers responded to the trailhead on Mountain Road in Greenfield. She was approximately 2 miles up. After an approximate 2.5-hour carryout, rescue personnel arrived at Mountain Road. So this is at 6:30 p.m., where she was finally evaluated and taken away to Monadnock Community Hospital. Interesting stats this week, huh? A lot of females.
Yeah, it's been steady. I mean, we had a couple of weeks where it was like really crazy, but it's been steady, like 3 or 4 a week consistently for the last like month or two.
Yeah, this is going to skew your data, though, with all these females slipping and falling this week.
I guess. I don't know. I got to total up everything, and I got a feeling that the numbers this year are going to be a little bigger than they have been. Yeah,
what gives you that sense?
I don't know. I just it seems like I said, it's been consistently 3 or 4 a week in the script. So I'll have to look through and see. I'll probably total up the numbers. I usually wait until the end of foliage, and once we get into November, I'll take like a night and I just total them all up, and I'll add a new year to my spreadsheet. So I'm going to play around. I have ChatGPT, so I can ask ChatGPT to like generate some new visuals and give me some ideas on the data. So I'll play with that a little bit this year.
Great. Yeah.
So
that's phenomenal.
I may actually, for the full conditions, I may just do a PowerPoint slide with the updates.
Great. How would you do that? Do you have a screen?
I don't know. I have to see if I can get if I can somehow get a screen, or let me have to ask them if we can get like a larger screen.
Yeah, let's see if
we just bring our own.
Yeah, or maybe listeners can bring one. I don't know. Or maybe we can
we'll figure it out.
Buy one. Woo!
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
So. Anyway, but that was episode 170, everybody. So hopefully we did well. Like I said, Stomp is turning 55. He's getting a little bit old. He's a 5 or 6 on the scale. And
on the adorable scale.
He might be down to a 4 by next week, so we'll see.
Deflating fast.
Yes. Okay, until next time.
Later.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.